Boom! Let's knit a thing. Oh, hi. Once you go sheep, you never go cheap.
Oh, hi. Neville's joining us today, so we'll see if he gets into any of my stuff, and if he can stay.
Are you sad, buddy? Are you sad? Or are you sleepy? Are you sad or sleepy?
I'm Shannon, and this is a soxcetera, episode 29. So welcome, thanks if you're coming back, and welcome if you're just joining us for the first time. I've had a few new people checking out my podcast lately, so that's fun. Thanks for coming by. So I didn't update a week later as I was hoping I would, but I am here now, and I've got some fun things to show you, I think. Hello. It is Shannon from the future, and you can tell because of my glasses, these very, very futuristic glasses. I forgot to tell you some things, like where you can find me on social media. You can find me on Instagram as @ShannonMariah, and you can find me on Rav as shannonfisher, and you can find the show notes for this particular podcast on Ravelry under soxcetera. Handy, right? So I want to warn you that there is just some rambly weirdness in this episode, and I left some of it in because it just seemed complicated to edit it all out when it's all throughout. I think it's just been so long since I've been podcasting that I am completely out of the groove, and I could not seem to relax this episode. But also, I'm not the most articulate person to begin with. I think I've said this before. I write because I don't talk good. And it's true. I'm just not a very good talker. But I'm usually a little more relaxed than I was this episode, as you're about to see. So I've been thinking that maybe I need a partner. Maybe I need a podcasting buddy who does this with me on the reg. But it has to be somebody very special, somebody who can handle my foot and mouth disease, somebody who can handle my impulsivity, someone who's not going to worry about editing out all of my weird bits, somebody who is okay with not pleasing everybody all the time, and somebody who I can just talk to and have some banter with, some back and forthness with, so I'm not just relying on myself all of the time, because clearly it's not working out for me. So I think I would like that. I think I would be able to relax more if I could just have a buddy. So I'm going to do some thinking about that. I think the rambliness also comes out a bit when I'm talking about social justice issues, because as someone who's talking about marginalized groups, who's not actually part of those marginalized groups, I'm always at risk of messing up, and I probably have, and I probably will continue to, and that's scary and leaves me a bit vulnerable, but it's also really important. I have to be comfortable with being uncomfortable, and sometimes that's hard and scary, but I'm working on it. So if you are part of a marginalized group that I have talked about, that I talk about in the future, and I completely mess up, feel free to let me know, because I am here for the learning and the growth. That is high on my to-do list. Please do not be afraid to tell me when that happens, because it's going to happen. And it probably already has. So yeah, I'm a work in progress. That's what I have to say about that. But I hope you'll stick around to see the end result, which hopefully is me being a little bit better tomorrow than I am today. Let's start off right away with Shouty Shan, and today Shouty Shan is just going to be 2 book recommendations. The 2 books that I'm recommending to you today are both ones that I listened to, and they're both narrated by the author, which I think makes it a pretty special experience to hear someone read words that they wrote themselves. So the first book is by Ta-Nehisi Coates, and it's his book called Between the World and Me. Ta-Nehisi Coates is a journalist in the United States, and he has written some of the most profound essays I've ever read. He wrote a lot of essays about Obama and the White House. He's a Black man, and I will share in the show notes, I'll share some of his essays. They're spectacular. I find myself losing myself in his writing. He just has this beautifully poetic way of bringing you into his world, but it's not a way that's I find that people who write kind of poetically lose me a little bit, because I don't like to have to think too much about what I'm reading. I like it to just sort of be really plain. But he has a way of doing it that's both plain and very, I don't know, it's almost like being in the ocean. It's just so, as you can see, I am not someone you want reviewing your book. I do not do a good synopsis, and I'm terrible at reviews, but I'm telling you, you have to read his book. So his book is a series of essays that he collected and wrote to his son, who I believe is now 17, or at the time of the book was 17. So I don't think the book is fairly new. So, and it's a commentary on race in America. And I feel like reading it made me a better person. And so I'm just going to read you a couple of quotes from his book. It's a really short book. I feel like the audible version or the audio version was only about 3 hours. And I feel like I want to listen to it again before it's due back at the library. It's so weird that audio books are due back, or that you can only check out so many at a time. I don't totally understand that. Such is the modern world. So here's 2 quotes from Ta-Nehisi Coates' book, Between the World and Me. Black people love their children with a kind of obsession. You are all we have, and you come to us endangered. I was at the gym. I listened to this at the gym a lot, and I remember that just sort of like smacking me in the face when I heard that quote. And then this quote is from a part of the book where he had gone to interview a woman, because like I said, he's a journalist, who's a Black woman whose son had just been murdered by the police. And talking to her had a really profound effect on him. And that is one of my most favorite essays in the book, I think, when he talks about that interview and how it changed him. Then the mother of the murdered boy rose, turned to you and said, "You exist. You matter. You have value. You have every right to wear your hoodie, to play your music as loud as you want. You have every right to be you, and no one should deter you from being you. You have to be you, and you can never be afraid to be you." And he goes on to say to his son after writing that, he says, "I don't think I've ever said these words to you, and I think I've never said them to you because I'm afraid." Which, it just, again, reinforces to me the privilege that I have living in this world with white skin, and the things that I never ever have to think about, the things I've never even considered for a second teaching my own daughter. You know, I can't imagine being afraid to tell her that it's okay to be you, it's okay to wear your hoodie, it's okay to play your music loud. Imagine being afraid to tell your kids that it's okay to do those things because you're afraid that those things will get them killed. Yeah, Between the World and Me. If you get a chance, check it out. And then the second book is by The Daily Show's new host, Trevor Noah, who there's been some controversy around him lately when he interviewed She Shall Who Not Be Named. She's a white supremacist. He had her on his show, and people felt that he really was way too easy on her. He's also a black man, if you haven't seen The Daily Show, Trevor Noah. And a friend of mine mentioned his book during that whole controversy. He asked if I had listened or read his book, and I hadn't. So I checked it out. Actually, no, this is an Audible purchase, so I have it. It's a very long book, so it's definitely worth the Audible. Buying it on Audible, it's worth using up a credit for. It is such an education. So this book is called Born a Crime, and it's Trevor Noah's autobiography, basically, of when he grew up in Johannesburg in South Africa during the apartheid. And so he was literally born a crime when it was illegal for black and white people to have relations. And so his black mother had a relationship with a Swiss man, and Trevor is the result of that. So he was literally born a crime. And he has this amazing way of recounting his childhood, and you don't even realize that you're getting a complete, thorough, and amazing, entertaining, moving history lesson. I learned so much listening to his book, things I had no clue about. I didn't even really totally understand what the apartheid was, and I feel like I have a much better picture of it now. So if you are looking for something that is, and it was such an easy listen, like I said, Trevor Noah narrates it, and he knows so many languages, and he can do the accents of all of the different languages. He did his mother's voice, who he's very, very close to, his mother, and their story is so amazing. I love hearing him talk about his mom. So yeah, he did all of the accents, all of the voices. He is a brilliant narrator, and he made it so enjoyable to listen to. So if you can get your hands on an audio version of this book, it's well worth the listen. So here's just a really short quote from his book. "If you're Native American and you pray to the wolves, you're a savage. If you're African and you pray to your ancestors, you're a primitive. But when white people pray to a guy who turns water into wine, well, that's just common sense." So that's just one quote from his book, and he has so many amazing stories. I don't know how he remembered all of those things from his childhood. I feel like if I sat down to write just a series of stories from my childhood, there'd probably be like 4 I remembered the way he remembers his. But he was a pretty typical boy growing up in a pretty phenomenal time. He has one of my most favorite stories he tells is about his friend who was named Hitler, and he and Hitler are DJs, and they end up DJing this event, and I won't give it away for you, but things go awry. And So the thing about that story is that it's very entertaining and funny and interesting, but he also sort of brings in something I never thought about the things that are important to different cultures, and the things that we think are the most horrific things in the world aren't necessarily the most horrific things in the world to every culture. And again, just things that I had not thought about, perspectives I would never be able to have, because you can't fully understand the things that you haven't lived. Yeah, it's such an incredible book. So definitely give that 2 thumbs up. And even though that was only one, here's my other one, but my book might fall off my lap. 2 thumbs for both Between the World and Me by Ta-Nehisi Coates, and 2 thumbs for Trevor Noah's Born a Crime. So that's Shouty Shan for today. And so I had 2 years ago, or last year, the year before last year, I had a year where I tried to just read books by women, because the world is like flooded with everything by white men, right? You don't have to go far to just be bombarded by messages and media and everything that is by dudes. And so to go out of your way to consume things by women is really important. And so this year I wanted to make more of an effort to go out of my way to consume things by people of color. And so that's what I've been doing. Shouty Shan! If you're just joining us for the first time, Shouty Shan is a segment of my podcast where I shout about social justice issues and just talk about things that I'm learning from my own community, and essays that I'm reading and the way that they're having an impact on me and how I show up in the world. So that's what Shouty Shan's all about, in case you are just here for the first time. The end. Whew. I feel nervous today. Why do I feel nervous? How do people do this in one take? I don't know how anyone does it in one take. Sometimes I think, okay, today is the day where I'm just going to sit down, I'm going to say all the things, and I'm not going to have to edit at all. I'm just going to throw it up on YouTube. That is impossible for me. Impossible. If I did things in one take, most of my video would be this. Or this. So you're welcome that it's not just one take. Alright, let's move on to finished objects. Finished objects, yay! So, I only have one finished object and I'm wearing it! This is my elmont. It is a Brooklyn tweed pattern, and it is not by Michelle Wong, which I've been telling you this whole time. It is by Julie Hoover. And I started this on Christmas Eve, and I just finished it 3 days ago, and it's been drying for 2 days, and it is done, and I love it. I love it, and it fits beautifully, and I love it, and I love it. So I'm going to insert some video footage that Steve very kindly took of me out in the yard. First of all, I just want to say that the one thing that bugs me a little is that I completely messed up on the armbands, the eyelet armbands, the eyelet armbands. So they are supposed to actually be placed right before you join for the yoke. So I completely overshot it. So they're about 2 inches off. So they're like more close to my elbow which maybe looks a little bit ridiculous, and I briefly considered ripping back and fixing that, but I thought I'd block it and wear it for a bit and see how much it bugs me. So I still think it looks a little bit ridiculous where the placement of them. The other thing is there's supposed to be three bands of these eyelets. I got in my head that there was 2, and then I was like way up here, and I happened to glance at the photo on the pattern and was like, oh no, I was supposed to do a 3rd. You think I could convince myself to rip back and make a 3rd? Nope, could not do it. Fuck it, it's fine. So we'll see. We'll see if it actually is fine. So far it's fine. I mean, it's not hindering my enjoyment of the garment. But every time I look at it, I do think, ugh, damn it. So I think what I'm going to do is ask a couple of my non-knitter people to see, is there anything that strikes you a bit strange about this sweater? And see if they like think, well, those armbands are kind of in a weird place. And there should have been 3 instead of 2. Because, I mean, does it really matter? I don't know. Anyway, I'm going to insert the footage of me wearing it in the yard right here. I made the 46.5 inch version of this, and I believe my measurement around here is 41. Why you ask? Am I measuring under my armpits instead of my full bust? Well, because, and maybe I'm the only one in the world who didn't know this information, but my friend Steph, who is part of my knit night, she makes, basically all she makes is garments, and her garments all fit her so beautifully. And I think we got into a conversation one night about how does she get her garments to fit her so beautifully, besides swatching, which is, you know, a thing I should start doing. Miraculously, I did not swatch for this, and it still fits. So Steph told us that a common mistake that people make when they go to choose which size of a pattern they're going to make is they pick the bust measurement that is their full bust. So say your full bust is whatever, like 42. So you pick the sweater size that's for a 42 inch bust. When in fact, what you should be what measurement you should be using is the measurement under, so all the way around, right under your armpits. So just above your full bust. So your chest measurement is what you should be using, not your bust measurement. And she said that's because when most designers write patterns, they consider for bust increases. So they work that into the pattern, but the final measurement is actually for this. So I tend to believe her because she has phenomenal luck or skill in building a sweater that actually fits her well in the end. But anyways, that's a hot tip for you in case you've been having trouble making garments that fit you. That's my story. The yarn really bloomed quite nicely, and so it's really filled out, and I really like the neck detailing. I feel like my neck is not quite as big as the one in the pattern is, but that's okay. And so my friend Tassia said that she tends to experience that Brooklyn tweed does not grow very much when you block it. And I actually made, so it called for 18 inch sleeves, but I was worried about running out of yarn, so I made 16.5-inch sleeves. So I thought I was going to have pretty short sleeves, and before I blocked it, the sleeves were like right about here with my arm outstretched, and now, so I feel like they grew like about 1.5 inches, the sleeves. So I really like the way the sleeves fit. So they're just like up to my thumb. What else can I tell you about this? It took 6.5 skeins of yarn. It was really nice to work with. So I had heard that Brooklyn tweed was very breaky, very fragile. And I think they've changed their recipe a little bit, or whatever they do, because I had no troubles with breakage. And I'm a very tight knitter, so I pull a lot. And Neville even ran by a couple times while I was knitting, and he ran between me and my garment and the ball of yarn, pulled it, and it didn't break. So I think it's a lot sturdier than it used to be. And it was so wonderful to work with. I really enjoyed it. But I do not want to make a fingering weight sweater for a while. I definitely need a break. So that brings us to works in progress. So last time I showed you, I think I just had little baby toes, and I've been working away on these, but then I started, once I picked up for the sleeves again and started working on the yoke, I've been completely ignoring these. So they haven't grown very much, or I could have been finished them by now, but these are Hermione's. And this is with Sue and Chelsea of Legacy Knits, their yarn. And it's I think it's their Cozy Toes, because I'm pretty sure it has cashmere in it. And I've really liked working with it. I'm just on the gusset now, like halfway through the gusset, and then I'll do the heel turn. Last night, or 2 nights ago, I cast on for the, what's it called? The Harvest cardigan. So this is going to look something, and of course I stopped partway down the row, but basically this is the yoke part. So it's a raglan one piece, or raglan seamless. It's part of the Tin Can Knits Learn to Knit series. So it's a free pattern on Ravelry, and it's called Harvest. And this yarn is Wool of the Andes by Knit Picks, and I think this colorway is Firecracker Heather. So it's a tweed. It's 80% wool and 20% Donegal tweed. So it's not scratchy at all. Like, it's very soft. It almost feels like a superwash, but I was able to spit splice the end because the balls are only 50 grams each. So I was worried about having a lot of ends to weave in. But then I thought, I wonder if I could spit splice this. And I could. It was actually pretty easy. So yay for less ends. Yeah, so I think I only have about 25 more rows before I separate for the sleeves and the body. And then I'll be flying. I'm hoping to have this done for the end of May. And I will tell you why in a moment. But yeah, I'm really liking this color. It's like a reddy orangey. It's got like these fun browns and kind of a taupey cream flecks in it. And I do pretty good with red, so I think it's going to suit me nicely and just be like a nice casual cardi to wear. And I am making the medium large size, which I'm probably actually more the large size, but this is very, very stretchy. It's made on I think I'm using a US 8, which is 5.0 millimeter or 6.0 millimeter. I can't remember. but it's a very loose knit, so it's very, very stretchy. And the cardigans that I wear that are store-bought, I tend to wear smaller ones because I find they're very stretchy. And I don't like an oversized cardigan. So I want to size down. Did I swatch? No, I did not. Because I'm not too worried about it. But I think it'll be fine. But yeah, I'm pleased. And I'm pleased with how quickly this is going. And I feel like it's going to be a nice quick knit. So this yarn I've had in my stash. I've had in my stash for quite a while. Probably like 3 or 4 years. And it's just sitting right on top in my my pile of worsted weight yarn, and I thought, oh, I really need a worsted weight project, something quick after this fingering weight sweater. So this called my name. I was originally going to make this into a Weasley sweater for Emma, but her project keeps getting pushed to the back burner because I keep wanting to just make things for myself. Worst mom ever. That's okay. I told her the other night. She's like, what are you making? And I was like, someday I will make your Weasley sweater. She goes, I'm not gonna hold my breath. And like, that's probably a really smart idea. So anyways, yeah, this is a fun knit. It's easy. So you knit this back band piece back and forth, and then you pick up around the edges, and then you just start knitting, and then you carry on, and it'll just come all the way down. The only thing I think I might change about this cardigan is, so it has just ribbing around, so the whole what's that called, collar panel is garter stitch. So this is garter stitch, but then the bottom ribbing is also garter stitch, and the sleeves are garter stitch, and I do not like the way garter stitch looks as bottom ribbing and sleeve ribbing. I just don't like how it looks. It looks weird and bulky to me. So I feel like I might do a 1x1 rib instead, which I know might be like kind of a weird transition from this garter stitch to 1x1 ribbing, but I kind of don't care. And I know it'll pull in the bottom of the sweater a bit more, but I'm kind of okay with that too. And I also think I'm going to make this sweater a lot shorter than it is in the picture, just like waist length instead of hip length, because I don't think I have enough yardage and I want long sleeves. So we shall see. We shall see. Stay tuned. So next month already is my month for the Wonders of the World Cal, which the Wonders of the World Cal started in January, if you're just joining us for the first time, and a series of actually 7 of us podcasters are taking the 6 continents and splitting them up into months. And so May is mine and Mars's month, and Mars hosts the podcast Brownberry Chronicles, if you like to check her out. And we're hopefully going to get together virtually or maybe in person, who knows, in May to host together. So we're both hosting the month of May, and we're taking North America. So if you haven't yet, start thinking about what North American yarn patterns, what you'd like to be doing in the month of May to join the Cal. If you could go into, so I have a chatter thread happening in the soxcetera Ravelry group. And so if you haven't already, head over there and maybe start brainstorming some less well-known patterns and yarn that is North American. So it's totally fine to do something that is like mainstream, everybody's doing it, everyone knows about it, but it would be also really cool if people could if we could spotlight some people who don't get as much attention, who are just as deserving, I think that would be awesome. So if we could start brainstorming in that chatter thread, maybe patterns and yarns that people haven't necessarily heard of, that would be really fun, I think, to just start exploring. Because who knows, maybe something you share is something that someone else will like and they'll be like, ooh, I really love that. I'm going to totally knit that. So I'll try to make my way over there too and share some of my ideas. I haven't totally decided what I'm going to be doing in the month of May to celebrate our beautiful continent of North America. I just saw the eyelets when I raised my arm like that. I thought, it's a little bit weird. That's okay. That's okay. So yeah, Wonders of the World Cal. It'll run for the month of May. Think about all the North American things you want to celebrate in fabricy ways during, or fibery ways during that month. And Mars and I will be your hosts. So these end bits, this right now, what's about to happen, is just me dropping my book. Is just a modge podge of rambliness. I did not have it doesn't even fit under one heading. It's just me covering a few things I've forgotten to talk about the last times that I meant to talk about them. So, and sort of updating you on some life stuff. So it's like, here's a thing, here's another thing. Doesn't have to do with the last thing. It doesn't run smoothly into the next thing. Clunk, clunk, clunk. So that's what's about to happen. Enjoy! Last week I mentioned that Charlotte from Charlotte and Gus podcast sent me some yarn. Sent me a really beautiful package. And this is yarn that, so she dyes her own yarn. And she is a beautiful designer. She dyes yarn. She creates patterns. I think she's spectacular. So she sent me a sample of her stuff. So this is her yarn, and it's 100% merino, and it's called Sunday Brunch. And I feel like I have a bunch of really fun fingering weight yarns that I don't want to use as socks. So I'm thinking I'm gonna like see if I can somehow beautifully combine them together to make a fingering weight sweater. Kind of a mishmashy but coordinating, something maybe Stephen Westy, but more for the older, more mature woman. Not you young folk who can pull off those crazy colors. I don't even know what I just said. Anyways, this is Charlotte's yarn. So I think she has an Etsy store. So I'm going to find that Etsy store. I'm going to put that information here. I'll also put it in the show notes. So do check out her stuff. It is gorgeous. So this is like, it's almost like a gray purple base color. And then it's got deeper plums and kind of rusty reds, speckled bits, some fun grassy greens. It is a really, really neat color. Sunday Brunch too, that's such a fun name. I love it. It's beautiful, Charlotte. I cannot wait to do something with it. A couple weeks ago, last week, Elise and I took a quick road trip down to Bellingham, which is only about an hour from our border. And I'm only like half an hour from our border. So it was about an hour and a half road trip because Mars from Brownberry Chronicles had some business in Seattle. So she drove up an hour from Seattle and we drove down an hour from where we are. And we met up with her in Bellingham. And we met up at Northwest Yarns, which is an amazing, wonderful, beautiful, fun, funky, relaxing store, yarn store in Bellingham. And we hung out with Heather one of the owners, and she was just the loveliest host, and she totally got into our story. And so Lisa and I were there before Mars, and so by the time Mars got there, Heather knew who she was, and she's like, she just like got in on the fun. She's like, they've been waiting for you, you must be Mars. So by the time we left, the four of us were all like old friends, and Heather felt like she was one of us, and she was just so lovely to hang out with. And Heather gave us each one of her handmade, screen printed project bags, which I don't have with me right this second, but I'll take a picture and I'll insert it. Here it is. I found it. Their name is Natulu. And that's a really cool reference to something I don't know, because I'm not cool enough to know. But it's the squid, I believe it's a squid, named Natulu. Thanks for this, Heather, I love it. Mars got quite the haul. I just got one skein of yarn, which is this beautiful sunshine color, which again, I don't have with me, so maybe I'll insert a picture here. Look, I found it. BFL goodness. I can't wait to make socks out of it. So I'm excited to turn it into some really fun socks that make my feet super happy. And anyways, it was just really lovely to hang out with Mars and Elise, and I absolutely adore them, and they have become two of my most favorite people in this community. I've completely fallen in love with both of them, and it was just really fun to get to hang out with them at Heather's store. So thank you, Heather, if you're watching, for hosting us. It was a real treat to be there. If you have a chance, if you're in Bellingham, if you're in the area, definitely go to Northwest Yarns and check out Heather's store. You will not be sorry. It's got so many different wonderful treasures in there, including Heather. And if you're lucky, she'll be there. Or Castiel will be there from Supernatural, because it is his LYS. And he had been in there just a couple hours before us. Ah. My daughter died when she heard that, because she loves Supernatural. It's one of her most favorite shows. So I'm like, hey, I almost bumped into Castiel. Misha Collins. That's who I'm talking about, the actor Misha Collins, who plays Castiel, the angel on Supernatural. He frequents Northwest Yarns, apparently. So that's pretty fun. Neville, did you have something you wanted to share? So, Okanagan Knitting Retreat. I was there last May, at the end of May. Sorrento, the grounds are called Sorrento. I think it's like a camp. So the camp is called Sorrento, and it's in Okanagan. And I'm going again, and Elise is coming this time, and Glenda from Wet Coast Wools. So 3 of us are all driving up together, and there we're going to meet up with Marsha and Scylla from their podcast, Twitch and Stitch, and Carla's going to be there from Knit Nicks. And who am I missing? Oh, Vicky, who was my roommate last year. She doesn't have a podcast, but she's like the most amazing person ever. She's going to be there with her friend Bonnie, who is also spectacular. So we're all going to be at this knitting retreat again in the Okanagan. So I'm so excited. I get to take another road trip with Elise and Glenda, who are both really fantastic road trip buddies. And so, yeah, that's why I wanted to have this cardigan done in time for the end of May, so that I can wear my knit piece around a bunch of other knitters who will ooh and ah it accordingly. So hopefully I'll get some footage like I did last year. Oh, so quickly, I wanted to tell you about Canada's Smartest Person. Remember when I auditioned for that? It was horrible. It was horrible. I was horrible. I was so nervous. I do not think well on my feet. He rapid fired some math questions. He got me to like do some dancing. I just stand up while on Skype with a complete stranger and dance in my like 2x4 office. Ugh, it was so humiliating, actually. I was so glad when it's over, and I think I came downstairs and I was like, Steve, nobody has to worry. I'm not going to be on Canada's Smartest Person. That definitely did not go well. Did not get a call back. So no surprise there. I'm not cut out for those kinds of things. But you know what? I did it, and I'm glad that I did it because I did something that I was afraid of, and I feel like every time I run towards fear instead of away from it, I grow as a person and I learn more stuff about myself, and I proved to myself that I am more capable than I thought. So not all is lost. But I'm definitely not Canada's Smartest Person, in case you were wondering. So last two fun things I want to tell you is that Em and I are in ASL right now, which is American Sign Language. So years and years ago, I took a series of sign language classes and got really close to my instructor. And so I'd go over to her house and have supper with her husband, who was also deaf. And so I got pretty fluent in it. And then I didn't use it for a number of years, so I lost it all. And then recently Emma had been showing an interest in sign language. So I thought, hey, let's find a class. And so we found a class and we're doing it together. And it is so much fun. We are having the best time. We are meeting the greatest people. And the cool thing about this class is that it is bringing a lot of the deaf culture into the class. They're educating us a lot about deaf culture, which I don't feel like my previous classes ever did. There's lots about the deaf culture that I didn't know, and I feel like is really important to know as someone who's learning the language, because the culture is a really big part of the language. So I feel like it gives you a better appreciation for what you're learning and for what the deaf community has endured and the way that they've persevered. It's been really cool to learn so much about their culture. So Emma and I are super enjoying that, and we've been signing around the house a bit, so that's been great fun. It's been wonderful. So yeah, that's a thing. And then the last thing I want to tell you is that I am writing a book. So what I've done on my blog forever is basically write a bunch of personal essays. So my blog is primarily personal essays. So what I'm going to do is collect some of the personal essays from my blog. I'm going to spruce them up, update them. And then I've got some other personal essays sort of brewing in my head. I'm going to write those, and then I'm going to collect them all together. And I'm not going to shop around for someone who wants to publish my book. I'm just going to publish it myself, because I know myself, and I know that if I have to shop around and do that, I won't do it. It'll be a thing that I just never get to. But I have the means to publish the book myself, so I'm going to do that. It's the modern world, guys. So I'm really, really hoping to have that done this year sometime. So available to purchase on Amazon for your e-reader or whatever. I don't know that I'll have print copies available. I suppose if I could find a place that would do those on demand, then I'll do that. So that's a thing I've been working on, and I'm really excited about it. I'm part of an accountability group now who's keeping me on track. I've sort of started to get it scheduled into my day, and got a document going. I'm keeping notes on my phone as I think about things. So hopefully that is something that you'll be interested in when it's time. Those are all my things. Thanks for sticking around and listening, and I hope you're well, and I would love to hear from you if you want to head over to either the Ravelry group or leave a comment down below to let me know how you're doing. Thanks for coming. Big love and squishy hugs.
Okay, you are not a bear, because if you are... Well, I think I'm terrible at this. Why didn't you step in and take over? I feel like you have some things to say.
We did it. We did it. We did the thing. What's that thing in my face? I can make my ears wiggle. That's something I've never showed you. But you can't really see them. Okay, ready? Are you ready? I don't think you're ready. See them? See that? Oh yeah, it's moving. It's moving. How is it doing that? Nobody knows. My grandpa taught me that. That's all, folks. Bye. I love you.